Hello and welcome to the brand new American Reformation podcast. We long to see the wider American Christian church fall more in love with Jesus by learning from the practices of the early church and other eras of discipleship multiplication. We want to hear from you. Make sure you comment and leave a review wherever you're watching or listening to tell us what God is doing in your life or how you feel about today's conversation. Lord, have your way in us. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the American Reformation Podcast. Tim Allman here. Wherever you're at today, I pray that you're buckled up and ready to discuss something that is very, very practical. Whether you're a pastor, if you're just a human looking to be healthier, looking to make better decisions, looking to set better habits, looking to cast better vision for the life of your ministry, organization, whatever it could be, or for your family, this is going to be for you. You may not know, but there are forces at work in the world that want to work toward your demise, to steal, rob, and control your energy rather than maximize it for kingdom expanding purposes. So today we have one of my favorite people on planet Earth. I was blessed to do this man's wedding, just a little under a year ago or so, when KJ Struz married way up in marrying Brittany, and they've been quite a young couple in my life. It's a joy to have you, KJ, hanging out with us today. KJ has been back in the day, probably 5 years ago or so, on with Jake Bessling and I on Lead Time. But we wanted to share KJ's brilliance, Holy Spirit inspired brilliance, especially around health and wellness with the American Reformation family. So thanks so much for joining us today, KJ.
Of course. Thanks for having me again. Let's not make it 5 years next time, though.
Yeah, no. It will be far more frequent. So kick us off. My opening question for this podcast is how old are you now? 20? You look like you're 22, but you're like,
yeah,
are you 27, man?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're getting old.
You should take it. Yeah, I'm totally getting old. But as a 27-year-old follower of Jesus, an everyday entrepreneurial, baptized follower of Jesus, how are you praying for reformation in the Christian church?
I mean, the church needs a lot of prayer right now, obviously, and the world needs a lot of prayer. It just kind of comes down to meeting people where they're at and walking in the faith. Sometimes we like to share our faith and through words, which is great, but I think walking shows a better example. I've actually experienced it with one of my friends, and he's come closer and closer towards faith and understanding, what I believe, because I don't necessarily force. And so I think that's hard right now, where there's a lot of divide in our worlds. And so we want to make sure we share our opinions and our faith. But I think it's almost a long game if you want to think of it that way. I think I was going to talk about it later, but I'll bring it up now. Everybody wants to buy, but no one wants to be sold. So it's one of those things where as we go through this process of our world right now, we just need to make sure we can kind of take time for ourselves, but then just walk in our faith and let others kind of observe that. And I think that's kind of, I think where we can go right now.
Yeah, Jesus said, they'll know you're my followers by the way you condemn others, the way you polarize and divide. No, that's not what Jesus said, KJ. He said, they'll know you're my followers because of the way you love, the way you emanate in the midst of chaos, within and around peace, in the midst of the world. That's how the world is going to know. We need more people who have been immersed in the work and the words and the way of Jesus. That holistic disciple who understands, yes, Jesus came to take away our sin through dying and rising again. Yes, we need more of the voice of Jesus in our ears, in our hearts, and then the way we communicate, the way we just go about life, would it be filled with the fruit of the Holy Spirit? To just echo that, it's to rather than saying, hey, wow, I want like the Holy Spirit's at work in folks that are pre-Christians, right? I want more of that. I want more of what KJ has. Well, you emanate that. You represent a passionate peace-filled, hope-filled, optimistic, passion-filled follower of Jesus. A transformation equals, and there's a lot of social science around this, VIM, vision, intention, and then the means and habit. So for people to say, and we always have areas in our life because we're broken, we're fallen. We always have areas in our life where we're like, whoa, that needs to be tightened up. Like if you're listening to this, you're like, every aspect of my life is tightened up, neat and tidy. I'm good to go. Like you should probably stop right now, but that human doesn't exist. That's only Jesus, right? We're all works in progress with this Holy Spirit inspired vision for transformation, that the future would be better, that we would grow more and more up into Jesus, who is our head. This is a journey of sanctification for us as followers of Jesus. And the way that looks like is a vision. This could be a vision personal or for the organization you leave. This intention, I want to set, the Holy Spirit's leading me to set certain habits in place. And then guess what? I'm actually going to do it. The means and the habits that start to shape the way we achieve that by the power of the Spirit, that journey of transformation. So what are the top 5? Let's get super, super practical today. Top 5 healthy habits that humans must do on their journey of transformation, KJ.
I mean, I've got a few of them. I can always say more, but I think I want to say first is reverse the mindset to my body is intelligent. Right now, we always say my body's broken. I need this. This needs fixing. I have a bad memory, or whatever that kind of tends to be. We always focus on the negative of how we can improve, which is good to highlight that. But I think we need to go back to my body's intelligent. It's been wonderfully and beautifully made and created and crafted. And it does have all the healing capabilities. You have everything within your means right here. So I think adapting that mindset back is a huge one.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a growth abundance mindset rather than, and Lutherans, many of the people that listen are Lutherans, right? To journey toward the new creation. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and I no longer live, actually Christ. Think about the power here. The power of the Spirit of the risen Jesus lives within you. You're no longer your own. You've been bought with your price. Therefore, honor God with your body, the way you care for it. And our bodies are like a mystery, man. It's a beautiful mystery, and they're not even scratching the surface of brain science and how even the healing mechanisms go along, the electromagnetic. There's so much that's a mystery that should lead us all the more to just bend the knee before the creator of all things, right? So get into those. I love that. Starting out with, yes, this body, this day is a gift. And while I maybe have experienced things that lead me toward brokenness, I'm beautifully broken and being put back together by God who created me. I love that. So let's get specific on the top 5 healthy habits toward that journey of transformation.
Yeah, man. I mean, right now we're in Arizona. We're pushing that hot heat right now. It's that dry heat, right? But it's staying hydrated.
118.
Yeah, don't remind me. I gotta go back after this.
Sorry.
But staying hydrated, and what I mean by that is not just drinking water. Actually making sure you're taking care of the amount of minerals, because the minerals is actually what balances the frequency of the water going into that side of making it whole again. So when we talk about water, we're talking about, distilled, and we've got spring water, and you've got all these alkaline water, right? But what they're typically doing to make sure all the bad is processed out is they're stripping the good and the bad out to make sure it's clean, so there's no pathogen and things like that. But we want to make sure we're adding those minerals back. Otherwise, it actually strips us from the body, and we're actually dehydrating ourselves further. And I think they say about 96 and 98% of people are actually chronically dehydrated, whether we're drinking water or not. And I know there's people that don't drink a lot of water, but balancing with the minerals makes us whole again, makes the water whole again.
Some people have said, KJ, that coffee is the third sacrament. Like you got baptism, you've got the Lord's Supper, and then I can't get through life without a cup of coffee. Now, I'm not anti-coffee. No. I am anti-coffee before water, though.
Yep.
Like if your habit's coming downstairs and getting that coffee. I've heard so many people like, this is a habit, right? I can't wait to get out of bed. I've just dragged myself out of bed. But man, I start to hear that coffee maker going. I think there's a large, you just said 90-some%, man. There's a lot of people that are taking in a cup or two of coffee before they get their water. What's up with that? That shouldn't happen.
Habits. We're talking about habits. But it's also like, it's one of those weird things where it's all that we've known for a lot of people. like, guess what? If you actually look back and ask them, where'd you get that habit? Probably mom and dad. And if they had got it from mom and dad before they went to work. And so these habits were created, and I don't think we realize where they actually came from. We just kind of inhabited them. We picked them up.
What are some of our greatest mineral, I agree with that. What are some of our greatest mineral deficiencies right now as you look at the American landscape as it relates to water and just minerals in general? I know that's one of your major points of emphasis.
I would say potassium, magnesium. Potassium's huge just to balance the cells. So if you think of sodium potassium pumps, that's every single cell of our body. That's huge. And then magnesium, I mean, a lot of people have anxiety. They're stressed. They're worried. So, I mean, magnesium is great for the brain. It's great for the gut. It's great for muscles and cells on every cellular level, heart. So calcium excites the body. It nerves and cells, and magnesium relaxes it. And so you got to make sure you have that correct balance. And a lot of us are deficient in magnesium as well.
Yeah. You talk about, so you got 5 healthy habits. One, it's reverse that mindset. Your body is intelligent, fearfully and wonderfully made. We need to get hydrated, and then focus on micronutrition rather than the macros. How have the micronutrients been kind of devalued? Tell that story a little bit. I think that's really, really fascinating for people.
Yeah, and it kind of comes down to, one, the foods we're eating, and what we're not getting from that. And so if you look at a grocery store, I'll touch on a little bit later, 43% of the food in the grocery store is fake. It's man-made. It's designed to last on a shelf for longer than what typical produce would, or, it goes bad in 2 to 3 weeks. It's designed, you can look at the data in 2027 and it's still good. So what we're missing from that, it's because it's so highly processed. If you think about it, when you eat something that's junk food, right? Chips, things like that, we all enjoy it. That's the thing, is everything in moderation, including moderation itself. But we need to make sure we're actually getting the minerals, the vitamins for the body that it needs. If you eat sugar, you have the high spike and then you have the crash. And guess what? You're hungry again not too long after, because your body wants those minerals. And so you can actually eat less food and better quality of it, and actually kind of be more maintained and have a better metabolism that way, is because you're retaining what your body actually wants to get from the food. It's a delivery system for vitamins and minerals is what it is. And sometimes that delivery system happens to be in a capsule. So kind of starting there first. But secondly, a lot of our food is so highly, just going to that highly processed side, it's even the farming side. They're trying to produce so much food that they're not giving the soil the time to regenerate the nutrients that God put in there so it can regenerate. So then it relays through the seeds up into the plant. And so you see a lot more people going to farmers markets and things like that, because they're actually kind of doing what they call crop rotation, or even things like hemp. When you plant hemp, the industrial hemp actually pulls toxins out of the soil and makes sure it regenerates. So there's some cool things that you can kind of do to make sure that these foods have nutrition. And so that goes in part of our organic farming. So, you hear the dirty dozen and all that stuff. But yeah, you can kind of make sure you're getting more nutrition from better quality foods and vegetables as well.
Have you heard the story? That's so good. Have you heard the story about how heart disease became in vogue with the rise of not just the processed food industry, but certain types of pesticides that had started to be used in crops, that
Yep.
intimate connection? Have you heard that story? Like, everything kind of
I've heard a
changed
lot
back
of them
in,
out
I think
there.
it was 60s, 70s, 80s, just this high spike in the inflammation of the heart and heart disease in general. I mean, anything we can do to eat as clean as we possibly can, not in a legalistic way, just think 80% or whatnot, but
Yep.
if God made it, I ate it, and I wanna know where my food is coming from all the more. I think there is a reformation of sorts, a revitalization of people, especially in your generation, who are kind of valuing this conversation more and more. Is that kind of true? Is this a little bit of a generational thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You think about it, everything's cyclical. Like right now, I'm also a high school coach, and we'll talk about that later. But like the '90s style is coming back. It's a cycle. Here in 2023. So it's one of those things where in our time right now, we're realizing maybe we need to. I mean, you hear all these things on the news of possible food shortages, and who knows you've seen the egg stuff and prices spiked and you couldn't find eggs on the shelf. So finding ways to make sure you're still being able to take care of yourself and your family. So I think people are just looking for other alternatives. And then it almost brings some pride back, because guess what? You grew that food. You took your time, your energy, your love to make sure it was actually becoming fruitful and you can actually eat it and enjoy it.
Facts, dude. Facts. I am starting a garden in my backyard. Not now. It would burn up right now. I've had a small little garden, but I'm gonna do a raised garden bed, and it's gonna be super legit moving into the fall. Our growing seasons down here are kind of whacked out. So we got that body is intelligent, that mindset, that positive mindset. Make sure we're focusing on water before coffee, hydration, micronutrition, resisting sugary processed heavy salt foods, and now talk about the value of movement. What would you say to someone, we got pastors and leaders, and being a pastor, KJ, is a stressful gig, right? There are a lot of expectations, both of you put upon yourself and that, God puts upon, and then you've got other people, and stress obviously leads to inflammation. And one of the greatest ways to battle inflammation is by moving the body. But a lot of pastors say, man, I'm not an athlete anymore. Maybe I played way back in the day, but just that shame voice, that insecure voice that comes into the head of many leaders. And that leads us to just kind of have that frumpy, not just physicality, but that kind of frumpy attitude from time to time. Talk about the necessity of moving the temple of the Holy Spirit.
When I talk about moving with activities you enjoy, but you can also kind of tap that into activities you're already currently doing. So I know a lot of the people are going towards maybe like walking meetings. Right now in summer, maybe not so feasible for Arizonians, but just moving, you're already doing the activity. And if you think about it, when we're moving, we actually typically have more clear thoughts. And so it's interesting how that works. You've got the circulation going through the body. You look at the immune system, the lymphatic system, it's actually designed to move. And so the more stagnant you are, the actual lower, less likely you're actually be able to fight things off. And so those two go very hand in hand. So doing things like that, but then also, finding something you enjoy with your partner, with your spouse or whoever you're dating. Like me and Brittany love pickleball. Right now we're not playing it. But I also love volleyball, so I'm playing all the time. So it's finding things you enjoy where it's not like, I gotta go to the gym at 5 a.m. and, lift weights. If that's not your thing, maybe find more fun and more interesting ways. Be creative, I guess what I'm going to say is there's other ways than just what we say is a standard movement, going on the treadmill, elliptical to get moving.
Isn't that right? Those dynamic movements. My goal is to push and pull and sweat every day. Not everybody has to have that same goal.
Yep.
But I want to push or pull, and it depends on my environment, right? See, I love a morning, get it going, get your sweat on, kind of HIIT workout, a high intensity interval training kind of workout. That does it for me. That doesn't do it for everybody, and it's in your season of life, man. Just the 10-minute walk, a walk of gratitude. Thank you that my legs can move and I can be out and about, man. That goes so far in helping us to just be present with the people around us. Anything more to add, though, on the necessity of movement, KJ?
No, it's one of those things where it's a principle of life. You think about it, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, they didn't just sit behind a computer all day. They tended the garden, they took care of the plants. And so just finding other ways we can take care of that. Move with your kids, move with your grandkids, and try to find ways to balance that into your life, because that will probably be the most excitement, to be honest.
Talk about what movement does to the brain, because our last one here on the healthy habits is the peace-filled mindset, right? The calming of the mind. It'll just link in a transitionary way what movement does toward the brain.
It's everything, but it's circulation. So circulation is everything for the brain. And so I know that I've done a lot of research in Alzheimer's, as we took care of my grandfather who had Alzheimer's years ago. And just circulation is huge. If you don't have the fuel, if you don't have the blood that's carrying those nutrients to the brain, you're not able to function as well. You're not able to think as well. We call it brain fog. And so getting that circulation is huge, but then also balancing it of calming the mind, praying, meditating, whatever you want to do. And that aspect of it's calming the mind. I'm anxious myself. And so the more I'm able to calm and slow myself down, and almost it ties myself back to the Creator, who He is, and calm and peaceful and things like that. It just kind of just eases the body in a different way. So moving, and then stillness. the balance of those two as well are huge.
Isn't that funny? Life is found in kind of the juxtaposition or the paradoxes of life, because we've just been like, move, go. But yet, how often do we just sit still and let the mind focus on, well, there'll be thoughts that kind of pop up. There's some meditation practices here, and they're fleeting and they come, and that's okay. Acknowledge and then move on. But just to move toward that posture of stillness, that is so countercultural today. Because whether we're moving, our minds are always moving, and we need some brain breaks, man. Have you heard of the concept of white space? Kind of between,
a little bit,
yeah. Just that habit. It is a habit between meetings. This is necessary for church leaders, because you may have a meeting where you're grieving with a widow, putting together a funeral service, and then you're moving into a strategic, future-focused planning meeting, right? And to take that, research says about 5 minutes or so of just stillness, to focus, to transition, to maybe grieve and to process what the emotions of the last thing were, and then to show up fully present for the next encounter with respective problems and people and things. So, yeah, to take that white space, that is huge. Any other last thoughts about calming the mind?
No, not really, man. It's one of those things that's very simple, but it's not easy. It's very simple, and you don't have to be perfect at it, and it's just a practice of it. No one's perfect at anything, let alone the first time you do something. It's that repetition of, even in a few minutes. Like, I used to have this habit, and it's kind of faded, but it was actually, I used to do a lot of driving between store accounts for my old job. And I used to have a rock that would sit on my steering wheel, so every time it'd fall off. Otherwise, I had to take it off and kind of think and forget me they're safe. Thanks for allowing me to be a vessel, and use me as you will, Lord, to just bring whatever I needed, whether it was just being a therapist for somebody at that point and just hearing them and letting them kind of release, or if it was kind of speaking some truths and educating in their lives for what I was doing at that point. And so, to me, that's stillness, and just being there, being present, being grateful, and letting him work through me, and just how I used it at that point. So doesn't have to be, you're not a monk and meditating and silent for hours on end. I think that, like you said, that juxtaposition is kind of huge, but you need to make sure it's the thought that counts. It really is. And then repetition over time builds up.
That's right. Hey, let's drill down on the topic of diet and listening to your body. So what words of wisdom would you have for someone who's never really learned to listen to your body? You're just moving, and you're between meetings, and you eat, but you don't really process how you feel after you eat. And what we know for sure is there's no one size fits all diet. Some use keto, some are going to do different things. So just give us words of wisdom as the leader starts to listen to their body.
Yeah, it kind of ties right into that white space. It could just be just asking yourself a question, putting reminders in your phone. That's a big thing for me. I forget a lot of stuff. I'm juggling a lot. I told you about all the projects I'm doing. And so it's I forget a lot of things. And so sometimes it is hard to take that time and, put the oxygen mask on first and think about, where am I at? Where is my headspace? Am I foggy right now? Can I, produce clear thoughts? And so just, small things here and there. But nowadays we all have this technology and easy access, finding ways to utilize that after meals, saying, well, where's my heart rate before and after? Just finding small things like that are going to go a long way. Like I said, the funny part, like you were saying, keto is, works for some people. And you know what? There might be a span of life where keto works for them, and then they keep doing it for, 2-3 years. It doesn't work the same. And so maybe you need to take a look of constantly pivoting and moving and changing and adapting, because our bodies are doing that as well. And so being flexible and fluid with the body, and I guess that just comes down to being still and reflecting where you're at. Yeah.
Do you have references for anyone who says, I don't know where to even start in terms of figuring out the foods that work for my body? I went through a journey. Sarah Sorensen was my kind of coach. This was about 4 years ago or so, where we did the blood panel work, and then I got the report back on the foods that my body really loved and the portion sizes that I needed. And now I don't weigh food or anything like that, but I got the data that helps me know. And man, if I listen to my body after eating those respective foods, the right types of protein for me and carbs, et cetera, veggies that really speak to my cells, man, I'm more on than when I'm doing I love my shadow side, KJ, is I love tortilla chips. So I love going, you know what I'm saying? But if I eat, like I can eat like 10, but if I just go off on a whole basket of tortilla chips, I do not feel good. That maize, stuff just the grow. Yeah, but I like a little bit of tortilla chips, but I just have to listen to my body. So any resources though for people who want to take a next step and listening to their body and maybe even doing that blood panel work?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of online ones. I know Viome does some stuff with the DNA side and kind of respecting of how the DNA is reflected on how, foods and things adapt to the body. But I mean, just go into your local physician and get some blood work done. Want to see where your vitamins and minerals are at, going back to that micronutrition. And then secondly, food allergy test. I mean, there's different ways to approach it. Viome's one I've looked at actually heavily. I haven't done one, ironically. So that's a little bit of self-love I need to give myself. But it's one of those things where, I mean, I think honestly starting to see where you're at. Because if you don't know where you're at, you don't know how to take the next step and find the vehicle to get you where you want to go. And so it's finding that where you're at on the map and then finding out where you want to go. And then you'll find a vehicle to get you there. So blood work's going to be a big one to get you there and start that process.
I love it. Have you heard of the myth of metabolism? That as we age, our metabolism goes incrementally down. This research blew my mind. And man, I got to find where it was. I think I referenced it in a podcast a while back. But the myth that as we become, into your 30s and 40s, everything's just kind of slowing down. This was a deep research over like 10 years that found you have your metabolism between 0, which there's thoughts about we should make 0 1. Like I'm into my 42nd year right now, neither here nor there. So from 0 to 1, your metabolism as a little infant, man, is just skyrocketing, right? It's just skyrocketing. And then between the ages of 1 and 20, it was so high that it actually slightly decreases. All right. That was one of those myths. It just keeps going like this. And this is where you can kind of see childhood obesity. Like it's not, if those little ones don't have the right nutrients into childhood years and then into adolescence, things can go south quick if movement's not a part of their habits. And so it kind of slightly decreases. And then guess what it does between 20 and 60 years of age, KJ? It remains exactly the same. You have the same metabolic rate at 60. So I'll be 42. I have the same metabolic rate as I had when I was 7 years younger than you are right now. And then this is a bonkers one. From 60 to 90, it only declines at a 7% rate. 7% rate. Now, we're going to die. The lifespan of a human, I'd love more years in my life, but I want more life in my years. The lifespan of a human, we're going to acknowledge, is between, hopefully you can get to 80, 100-ish is probably the max. It's kind of interesting. That's like a full generation. I've been doing a lot of history work too. A lot of things move in cycles. You're talking cycles between 80 and 100 years. I think there's some intention in this season of history where the human life is in that sort of a window between 80 and 100 years. But man, because my metabolism, I don't have to regress that whole way. I want to die with my boots on, doing the things that God has called me to do whenever that day comes. You know what I'm saying? So any response to that does that surprise you that metabolism stays largely static?
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's what we call anomalies in the space of people like yourself. I mean, that are just killing it. And you probably only go and get better as you age, right? Because you have that mindset,
I want to.
Right? But I mean, there's people that I know in their 50s and 60s, and everyone's like, how do you look that way? And they're not anomalies. They're doing something right. And it comes down to almost, again, going back to that mindset, switching the mindset. Once you understand that basis of the foundation of your metabolism is the same from 20 to 60, all right, okay, maybe I need to move more. maybe it's something that I need to reflect on myself and do a little bit more just to make sure, and then also flip the mindset. There was a study done, I don't even remember where it was out of. This is a while ago, a few books ago. And someone eating a same hamburger, right? Someone told themselves, this is giving me nutrition. This is fueling my body. It had a different response than somebody saying, this burger is terrible for me. The amount of oils and fats in this is absolutely ridiculous, but I'm going to love it. I'm going to enjoy it, but it's terrible for me. The body had two different responses. Same trigger, different response. And so it kind of comes back to that and saying, cool, now that you know that your metabolism is the same from 20 to 60, have that mindset, and who knows? Some small things might, start shifting, and then that momentum goes forward.
Do you know the best book that I've ever read, KJ?
No, I stopped reading mine years ago, so we're good.
The Bible? That's good. I like that. The Bible, and then the next one. And then the next one, whatever the next one is. You just referred to books. Like, you have that learning mindset, dude, that is just so huge. And I think it's not about the what as much as it is about the why of I just know that I'm a human being that's been put on earth to produce beauty and love and light into the world. And I know my mind is yearning for more to be put in so that it just becomes more and more expansive. And I've forgotten way more than I remember, but it's just become way more just a part of who I am. Like, the ethos of learning, the value of learning just becomes a part of who we are. And that just breeds humility, right? Because the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know about a lot of different stuff, and just that open arms wide, Lord Jesus, to all that you have in store. So help me be refreshed on superfoods. I love that. That was kind of a new term for me maybe 5-6 years ago, right? Superfoods. Wow, I could become Superman. I don't know. How does this kind of work? But talk about superfoods that maybe should filter into the American diet today.
Yeah, so I'll kind of touch on a few that are, simpler, if you will. Staples, avocado, peppers are absolutely incredible. So I'm working on a Mexican food concept, and peppers are incredible. Like our salsa, we're actually able to say that our salsa is 5 times stronger in vitamin C than a glass of orange juice. So, there's all these cool things out there, whether it's, Anaheim's, Poblanos, or it's simple bell peppers. Let's see, what have I got? What else I got? Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower. They're going to have a component called indo-3-carbinol and DIM. Actually, a lot of women will take it to balance estrogen, but it's actually the same pathway that your body uses to detox heavy metals, carcinogens, things like that. It's that same pathway in the liver. And so those are huge, but also to balance estrogen. And then eggs and olive oil and other, healthy oils, avocado, coconut, things like that. So those are easy things someone can incorporate in the diet. Someone said... A lot of those are...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What someone said. No.
Someone was saying that olive oils are just an easy thing to put on anything. Salads, meals, or just a delivery system, put olive oil on. I think that was Dr. Stephen Gundry, I believe. Just a method to get olive oil in the system.
To go a little, yeah, that's awesome, dude. I've heard the controversy between organic and non-organic, right? And I heard, berries are really, really good. But a lot of them contain extra toxins. So to pursue organic berries. But then I heard about avocados. Like, there's really no difference between an organic and inorganic avocado. So you buy that cheap avocado. That's cool. Avocados, the fat, the brain boost that you get from avocado fat, dude, is just next level. Also coupled with the appropriately sourced olive oils, right? Anything to add to demystify fat is not bad. I think in our culture, right, we think fat, stay away from fat. We need fat, right? That's what fuels our brain. Go ahead.
There's a reason why God put foods that have good fats on here on earth. But it's when you start looking into the man-made fats or the other vegetable oils that are so highly processed. They actually have to use detergents to process some things like canola, sunflower and safflower are not the absolute best. Corn, all these other vegetable oils, they have to basically process and strip because it's being forced into an oil, as opposed to olive oil, avocado, coconut are very easily turned into oils because that's pretty much how they're natively found. And it just goes into letting God do what he did best and not letting man, go have some fun with it, if you will. But yeah, brain is, majority fat. So how do you give your brain the best fuel if you're not eating any fats? It just doesn't add up to me. It's a very simple math equation, if you will. You need fat to fuel something that is mostly fat to feel good and, to do what you need to do.
Amen. Talk about some more exotic superfoods. Like if someone wants to go, what you just gave me, that's like A, but I want to go A+. KJ, sure. What would you tell them?
This is going to tie right back into those minerals. One's called shilajit. So it's actually a mineral resin from the Himalaya mountains, and it's this black tar-looking thing, and it's extremely high in something called fulvic acid, Fulvic, and it's actually what's in our soil as well, not as in high concentration as this, but it's one of the things that actually help regenerate the soil. So guess what? When you talk about the body and what could be a possible soil, you think about the gut. So this fulvic acid is what they call a catalyst to help absorb more and help the body function better. So you're absorbing more and actually doing more with what you're getting. Then it's got some cool things. There's some like nano gold and, colloidal silver kind of concepts in there and things like that as well that fit in that. But it's got, I think, 84 of the body's minerals that it needs, I believe.
That's pretty baller. I mean, where does the guy even get shilajit? I thought you swore there for a second. You know what I'm saying? Where do you find that?
I mean, health food stores are actually starting to carry it now. I know some capsules from a company called U-Theory. They source one called, trying to blank on it right now, but it's actually been fully processed to make sure that things are out of there. Symbiotica, CYM, Symbiotica's got one that I'm actually using currently. Based shilajit, I just get them on Amazon. It's kind of where I've been at right now. But yeah, I've actually been testing I went from the capsules years ago, and now I'm actually testing the actual raw mineral resin, which is kind of fun. Putting coffee and stuff like that, making a superfood out of that. So yeah, if you just type it in, SHILAJIT. Yeah, it's starting to pick up some momentum.
Love it. Sea moss. Talk about sea moss. Who's gonna eat that?
So
sounds
sea
gross.
sea moss is huge right now. I actually didn't realize the trend was coming around. This was about 3 years ago, and Sprout started bringing some powders in. But it's funny because I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Sebi, Sebi. I think he's from one of the African countries. Can't remember exactly which one. But he was one of those doctors that was able to, I'm going to say, manage something with the C word, and it disappeared with people. And it was kind of just eating a very clean diet. Wasn't anything crazy, but it was very high in minerals. And so sea moss has 96 of the 104 minerals that your body needs. And so it's even higher level. So again, we're going to give it what it needs. Now you don't need as much of everything else, and so you don't have that desire to consistently keep eating. So that's another easy way to get some minerals in the body.
So most of that's in like powder form, like, right?
Powder form. Right now, gels are big, and they taste kind of good. So there's like mango and pineapple, and they do a lot of some cool flavorings with it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of brands out right there right now, but if you go to Sprouts, I know they've got powders and stuff.
Man,
it's cool.
Every time I talk to you, you make me go spend money, bro. I don't know about that, but I want to be healthy, so I'm gonna give me some sea moss. That's pretty cool. So let's talk about the growth mindset just a little bit deeper. Where did you kind of come up with? Who are some of your main influences? Let's start there in terms of that growth mindset. And you're maybe going to drop some people that like conservative confessional Christians. You're like, I don't know if you should listen to guys like that, but that's okay. We can learn from everybody. I really believe that. So yeah, how are you developing that growth mindset, KJ?
I mean, it's just over time. It never got, Rome wasn't built in a day, and this mindset wasn't built in a day. But guys like Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, I mean, they kind of follow the same path. And honestly, they talk about the same thing in my personal opinion, but it's just a different approach, different way of viewing it. I call it different sunglasses or different lenses. And so it might be the same thing they're talking about. But you kind of actually alluded to earlier, but it's not as much of the growth mindset as why. That's what I'm realizing is huge. And so why do we want to make changes? Because changes aren't easy, and that's the tough part. But why do we want to change? And I think, can't remember his name, Bedros something. He actually created a gym and a few other concepts. But he was at a doctor's office, and basically the doctor said, question for you, I'm going to be very blunt. Do you want to watch your daughter walk down the aisle? And he said, of course I do. And he goes, well, if you keep on the same habits you're on right now, you're going to die 2 years before she's able to make it down the aisle, guaranteed, before she even graduates high school. What kind of change you think he made? It was completely dramatic, because his why changed. His why changed from surviving to thriving and being there for her, to walk her, see her graduation, walk her down the aisle. And so that will allow to push us more than anything else into being uncomfortable. And that's kind of where that comes down into is, I said Rome wasn't built in a day, but in my opinion, who said Rome was ever done? I think it kind of got paused, if you will, if you want to look at it from that lens, that I guarantee they wanted more, and they wanted a different concept from when we saw, where it ended. And so being okay with being a work in progress is huge compared to our Instagram world, and where I'm going to point a finger and say, oh, wow, you look great, or I want to be like them. No, how do we take that mindset of being like, I want to be like KJ, I want to be like Tim, I want to be the best version of myself, and not running a race against someone else, but running a race against my best possible self. That's where you start making some serious change and understanding your why and pushing forward there.
Man, I look to the Apostle Paul. Like, I think people have to have models. I'm never, I'm not in the same context as the Apostle Paul and all of those types of things. But as I read his words, when Jesus came and changed his life, when the scales fell from his eyes, his why radically changed. Like, multiply disciples, whatever it takes to start churches, and that they would be this living manifestation of the crucified and risen Jesus. And then he ran, and he uses that race. I ran with perseverance. I'm keeping my eyes on you, Jesus, and I don't, I'm beat my body and submit. He had some physicality to him too, some training recognition, and then the mindset training as well that the Apostle Paul had. Why? All for the glory of God and the influence that he had by the Spirit's power to lead people to Jesus. So if people struggle with the why, and that sounds kind of like, oh, that's a secular term, just flip it back to Jesus, man, and the life that Jesus gave you, the baptismal identity that he gave you. You are a walking miracle. All those cells coming together in your mother's womb, putting you together on planet Earth at such a time as this, man, you are amazing. And so to reject, yes, we must walk through how inadequate, lowly, sinful, fallen we are, but then that new man or woman in Christ being raised up, man, that's for me, that's the why. That's the mindset shift from scarcity to abundance. So, but to do that, man, it requires a lot of self-awareness and leveraging struggle for beautiful things. I rejoice, Paul says, Romans 5, in my suffering, knowing suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope, and that hope doesn't disappoint because, again, why? It's centered in Jesus. So talk about how the follower of Jesus should view struggle, pain in every aspect, mental, physical, etc., as a blessing rather than a curse.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about the same analogies over and over again because it makes sense to me. And so if it makes sense to me, I can, relay that, make it make sense for somebody else. But it's just putting on a different pair of glasses, a different perspective. Because, the most common analogy is diamonds are created in the rough. They're created under pressure. I can't find anywhere in the Bible where it says this life will be easy for you and it'll be simple and you're just going to, be abundant. But it's through that you actually realize what you have and who you are. It's not in the successes you realize who you are. It's actually in the struggles. If you talk to any entrepreneur, or a lot of pastors have gone through this, I'm sure, of points in where they're not happy with where their church is, and it maybe seems like it's diminishing and things like that. It's kind of there when you realize you hear the term rock bottom. I don't think that's a term. I think it's just a setback so you can propel forward because you know where you're at and it pushes you to where you want to go and it's different. Just changing that perspective.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Absolutely. So let's talk about marriage. Marriage, you're newly married, first year, all these new kind of rhythms getting embedded. You don't marry to find you didn't marry Brittany because she was a perfect spouse, nor vice versa. You married her because two is better than one, and you get to go on a mission to make Jesus known as you love and care and sacrifice and serve one another. So talk about what you're learning since you've entered into the married life, KJ.
Yeah, I mean, I've always known she balances me. I'm the dreamer. I'm up in the clouds. I'm hanging out up there. I'm floating as much as I can. But she's the realist of like, what steps is it going to take to get you there? What are you doing and how you do it? And so it's amazing how in the past, 9 months now, I'm actually amazed of what I'm capable of and what I can put on my plate and still manage to balance and make sure I'm still serving her, but I'm serving his kingdom at the same time, and I'm balancing those because I've always just, been in a, comfortable spot. And it was almost kind of in that same time frame that, I started doing more uncomfortable things. And I told you about all the projects I'm working on doing, a restaurant and helping somebody with a wellness center and on top of my day job. And so it's like, if you would have asked me, a year ago, can you juggle all of that and then also be a high school boys varsity coach? I would have been like, that's ridiculous. And so just having that support system to fall back on is huge, and helped me realize I'm actually capable of more than I can think of.
Yeah, it's so good. In the Adam and Eve story, I may have shared this with you, but she is your complement. She is your other. She is your balance. And one of the greatest parts that I think often gets understated in the Adam and Eve story as she was made from his rib, brought to him as a helper, a partner. But the fact that she was put there by God to be a kind adversary to KJ. Mm-hmm. That she's gonna see more of you, KJ, than just about anybody else. Heart, body, mind, spirit, right? And she gets to lovingly challenge you. I need my wife to be a kind adversary. She sees more, and so she gets a privilege to speak more because I know she has my best interest at heart as we grow up together. KJ, your wedding was one of the most memorable weddings I have ever been a part of. So it was that? Right. Yeah, I'll tell you the story, man. It was right in the middle of 6 straight weekends in October into November where I had weddings. I think you guys are middle of October, something like that. It was beautiful up in Sedona, Arizona, Red Rocks, man, just a phenomenal spot. But there was a forecast that rain could come that afternoon, and it was about 4 o'clock or so, 3:30 into 4 o'clock, and it was looking like, man, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. And then right as she is walking down the aisle, it, no joke, starts to absolutely rain down buckets. And the ladies had the umbrellas. We were kind of ready for it, but I don't know if you remember anything I said. All I know is I was thinking we got to do this like from 20 minutes. We got to tighten this down to about 10 minutes. So just the most important things to say. But you guys were champs all the way through it. The metaphor of the storms of life, right? The storms of life are going to come at us. But then here was the most amazing thing about the entire experience. It is a deluge, and not one of your party, about 100 people there to witness your beautiful day, walked out of that storm. They all sat in and through it, including my bride Alexa, having so much fun. But that was a picture of like the family of Christ, right? Your closest friends saying, no matter what you walk through, we're gonna be there. What were some of your remembrances from that amazing day? And then the party went on. It was you made the most of it, man, like a champ, dude. It was so cool.
No, it was so amazing. Cool. Like, we're so analytical. I mean, it's our wedding day, and everything you want it to go as smoothly as possible. I don't like the word perfect in that scenario, but you want it to go smoothly. And everybody comes up like, this is the absolute best wedding ever, and they're just dripping. And it's amazing and everyone's like, wow, rain's a good thing on your wedding day. And I'm like, well, we're really blessed, I can tell you that. But it's amazing what God can do, where it's like, we didn't want that. Like, if you look, we were looking at the forecast months in advance, and we're like, oh, we're fine. It's October. It's not going to rain 27 minutes of our 30-minute ceremony. No, that's crazy. It's Sedona. But what he did is he took that experience and he was able to share with so many people and share with us and reminded us how great of a community we have around us. And that was just a beautiful reminder. Yourself staying up there and being a champ. I don't even know if you could see what you were reading because it's the rain just hitting you right in the face. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, in this moment, if you talk about the storms of life, being still, we're going to go back to that topic really quick. We were still. I mean, we didn't have much of an option to go anywhere. So we remained still, and guess what? We got blessed. And because of that, everybody had an amazing experience. But yeah, I can guarantee no one will forget our wedding.
It was awesome. It was awesome, man. You're like, come on, Jesus. And then it's like, come on, Jesus, this is pretty sweet. It kind of felt like, you remember Forrest Gump, and I forget Lieutenant Dan. It's just like, let's go. It was kind of like that kind of an attitude, not an angry, bring it on. Like, if this is not a big deal. So, and that was all kind of mindset. And Brittany, like the bride, the dude's gonna like float. Like the dude's like, this isn't really about me anyways. The bride's put a lot of time into it. But the way she embraced it and just said it is what it is, and here we go. There was so much joy in the midst of the suffering of that rain, and I think it's a great picture of the Christian life. There's stuff going around, but man, Jesus is here. My family and friends are here. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. So one of the last questions here. This has been so much fun, bro. What is the Lord teaching you? You talk about coaching. I'm an assistant coach on a high school team here in Phoenix. My son's entering into high school. Super stoked about that. But what is God teaching you through the coaching experience? High school varsity boys volleyball.
Patience. I'm just kidding. No, seriously though, it is teaching me patience. Especially high school boys. They're a blast, but their attention spans are very, very, very small. What I've learned through this process is meeting them where they're at. Most importantly, because everybody's coming from a different place. They're coming from a different perspective and mindset. But we kind of talked about it earlier is walking my path and being very confident in what I'm here to do is I'm here to make you better men. And through that process, we're going to learn some volleyball and win some games and have fun in the process. But when I'm so confident, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm doing here. And almost say like, you're going to get on the bus, you're going to get off it. I'm a lot more nice of a coach than that. But it's the concept of they all bought in. I didn't have to sell any of them of this is what we're doing and blah, blah, blah. It was like, wow, this is what coach is putting forward. He's confident. He's backed it up year after year. This is what we're doing. And just kind of over time, it's a lesson for all of us. Like we have to meet people where they're at. We have to walk our walk, not only talk our talk, but then enjoy the process too. We lose games, we win some. We win a lot, but we do lose some as well. And it's in those times when we lose where it's like, oh man, we're tired of this losing thing. Let's go win more. It's kind of just all of my life lessons that I actually have stuck most. And I want to insert that into coaching because that is, to our future. And so if they can come back to me, I actually just had a player recently. He was the only one who actually went and played somewhere. And he tried a college, actually didn't wind up working out for a long story. And then he went to another one. And I got on a phone call with him after that one. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to continue playing here. And he's like, it's not the best vibe. And he goes, I just want to say thank you. And I was like, huh? He's like, so I didn't realize what I had and what you built and what you put so much time, energy, and effort into. And I didn't realize it until later, until I'm in this spot now where I've experienced something else. And so it almost teaches me the lesson of being grateful for where we're at, no matter where it is. Because now I can help relay that to my current players of, you know what, you'll never get this again. I'm not a perfect coach. I'm not a perfect person. But this group of people, these boys, your brothers around you, you're never going to have that again. And so that's kind of the same thing in life. Like we're going to have friends come and go, but in that moment, we need to make sure we're taking care of who's around us and they're taking care of us. And we're just kind of building this community up and for a better purpose.
Well, knowing who you are, man, and how the Holy Spirit shows up in and through you, I know you're a phenomenal coach. I'd love to come watch some of your games this upcoming spring. You kind of dismiss some, I guess, misunderstandings or generalizations that people may have about, young people? Because you're a Gen Zer, right? And you're young. Are you a millennial? I don't even know. Are you millennial, Gen Z?
I don't even keep track.
I don't even know. Whatever. Somewhere between millennial and Gen Z. But those young people these days, they don't, they can't. That's always the mindset of a lot of, older adults of the generation before, from generation to generation. But how can the church start to connect intentionally with more young adults? No, you're now married and entering into a different season of life, but just think back 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. What should the everyday church follower know about young people in our churches?
I mean, I'm going to go in a principal concept first, but actually Stephen Covey, seek to understand, then to be understood. We always want to, like I said, everyone likes to buy, no one likes to be sold. But it's first understanding where someone's coming from. And that way, it's not how you can come on my path. It's how can our paths converge and they merge together for something greater. And I think that's a big thing is no one wants to be told to do something. And honestly, everybody's the same way. It's like, you have to do that. And you're like, really? Do I really want to do that? Mm-hmm. And so we're the exact same way, being younger and having more lessons to learn. I actually told my parents a few times and saying, I appreciate your support, but I kind of maybe sometimes have to learn my own lessons. I have to mess up. I have to go through those hard times so I can come out better because of that. And it's almost understanding that we're all on our own journeys. That right now we're going through this time and age and we're trying to navigate it and we're trying to figure out, how to make the best of it. And now it's almost like, just always, think about it, just being a advisor, reaching out and saying, how can I help you where you're at? And saying, how can I help you? What are you going through? And then through that process of understanding, you can actually, I think 2 train tracks is a perfect analogy. How can you merge those together and say, here's where I'm at. Let me meet you where you're at a little bit, but you also have to do some work and meet me where I'm at too. And so we can continue to go forward where those tracks merge.
Well, I'm better because our tracks have merged, KJ.
Yeah, buddy.
You're awesome. I love you and always feel more alive. I've grown in heart, body, mind, and spirit because of our time together, and I know our listeners have today as well. How can people connect with you if they desire to, bud?
Yeah, man. Social media, everybody's got it now. It depends how much I use it. KJ Struz, Struz, on Facebook and Instagram. Happy to answer any questions in the supplement health world. Just connect and just share one of those company and see how we can help each other out and grow and learn.
Yeah, amen. That's the attitude. This is American Reformation Podcast. Sharing is caring. Please like, subscribe, comment wherever it is you take this in. We're growing actually on YouTube quite a bit here, KJ, of late. This is This is a podcast of the Unite Leadership Collective, and if we can serve you in any way, uniteleadership.org. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode of American Reformation. You're the man, KJ. Thanks, bro.
I gotcha.